What is a budget? Pip the squirrel gets 10 nuts every Monday. Pip is happy. Pip has nuts. Pip can get many things. Tasty acorns for eating, a fluffy piece of moss for his nest, a nice sharp twig for poking other squirrels. Life is full of choices. Pip sees a very shiny pebble. It costs 10 nuts. Pip gets it. Pip is very happy with his pebble, but now it is Tuesday. Pip has no nuts. Pip is hungry. Pip cannot eat the shiny pebble. This is bad nut management. A budget is a plan for your nuts so you do not have to eat pebbles. How does a budget work? A budget is telling your nuts where to go before you even find them. Pip still gets 10 nuts, but now Pip makes piles before he scurries off. One pile is for acorns. This is the need to live pile. One pile is for a shiny pebble. This is the want to have pile. One pile is for saving. This is the later nut pile, for a big thing like a luxury dray in the big oak tree. When Pip goes to the forest floor mart, he only takes nuts from the right pile. He takes the acorn nuts to the acorn pile. He takes the shiny pebble nuts to the pebble spot. He does not mix the piles. The later nut pile stays buried safe by the big root. Squirrel is in control. Squirrel feels smart. Budget terms. When Squirrel gets nuts, this is called nut in. When Squirrel spends nuts, this is called nut out. If nut in is more than nut out at the end of the week, Squirrel has a surplus. This is a happy nut. Squirrel can bury happy nut in the later nut pile. If nut out is more than nut in, Squirrel has a deficit. This is a sad nut. Squirrel has to borrow a nut from his friend Scamp. Now Squirrel owes Scamp a nut. This is O-nut, and it makes your tail feel droopy. What happens when Squirrel has a budget? Pip is not hungry. Pip still gets a shiny pebble, maybe a smaller one, but still shiny. Pip's later nut pile gets bigger and bigger. Soon Pip can get his luxury dray. Pip feels powerful. He is the chief of his nuts, not the other way around. Squirrel without a budget is always twitchy. He sees Scamp with a new dandelion fluff tail warmer and feels sad. He has no nuts for a tail warmer. He only has a big shiny pebble and an empty belly. Life is stressful. Why is a budget so hard? The chipmunk who sells shiny pebbles is very convincing. He says, "Pip, look at this one. It reflects the sun into other squirrels' eyes. You need this pebble." It is hard to say no to the chipmunk. Sometimes bad things happen. A woodpecker pokes a big hole in Pip's nest. Pip must use all his nuts to patch it. This is an emergency. The budget is ruined for that week. Squirrel feels defeated. Maybe all the other squirrels are wearing hats made of mushroom caps. Pip wants a mushroom cap hat too. It is hard to stick to the plan when other squirrels have fashionable fungi. The future of the budget. Now squirrels have smart moss, little patches of moss that glow when you put nuts on them. When Pip sets aside a nut for food, the moss glows green. When he sets aside a nut for a pebble, it glows blue. If he tries to take too many nuts from the food pile, the moss starts to flicker and squeak. Squeak, squeak, not the food nuts, it says. The moss is very bossy, but it helps. This smart moss means Squirrel brain does not have to remember so much. Squirrel can be lazy and still have good nut management. The tale of the two squirrels. Yes, this is a very old forest story. There were two squirrels, Flick and Stash. Flick spent all autumn chasing his tail and throwing big parties. He spent all his nuts on fermented berry juice to impress the lady squirrels. Stash did not go to parties. Stash spent the autumn gathering extra nuts and weaving a warm nest for the winter. Then the first snow fell. Flick had no food and his nest was drafty. He was cold and hungry. Stash was in his warm dray eating his extra acorns. Flick had to knock on Stash's dray and ask for help. Stash shared because he was a good squirrel, but he also told Flick, "Next year you make a budget." This is the oldest rule of the woods. A budget is not a cage for your nuts. It is a map for your nuts to find their way to a happy squirrel life. Now go away. I must organize my acorns.